In this video, I'm probably not going to be talking too much about my actual drawing process, but I'm going to focus on a simple introduction so you guys know who I am and the reason why I'm starting this channel and all that stuff. So, who am I? I'm an artist on Instagram and I've been posting my stuff online for a really long time now, maybe like 15 years, give or take. I think I was about 14 when I posted my first artwork online. I think it was like Gaia Online, which is crazy if anybody still remembers that. I've always found it pretty fun to post my stuff online, and I guess it gave me something like a context to put my artwork into. I was kind of drawing in a vacuum for actually quite a few years, I guess. Like, I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't like drawing, but I got really into it around maybe when I was 10 or so, maybe a little bit younger than that even. So I was drawing pretty much constantly. I've already filled a ton of sketchbooks before I posted my first thing online, but it was really fun to kind of join a community of people that also like doing the same thing, and I think that was always my favorite part of it. And I guess on that note, I should explain why I decided to make a YouTube channel. Not that I really need to explain anything, I guess, but I thought I'd just let you guys know my thought process. So I'm basically a YouTube addict. Like, I do work from home and I'm making my own schedule, and I actually do quite a bit of work that I guess requires very little actual thoughts or brain power. So I like to have an audiobook or a YouTube video in the background. So I've listened to a ton of lectures and got addicted to very long-winded things on YouTube, especially podcasts and stuff like that. I guess podcasts are a whole nother thing, but it's easy to find them on YouTube as well. Anyways, at first I was gonna say that a lot of the stuff that I watch or listen to doesn't really have anything to do with art, but then I thought about it and realized that's not true at all. I mean, I guess it depends. I go through phases, so lately I've been listening to a ton of art-related content, but I digress. The point that I was trying to make is that I really like the sense of community that YouTube cultivates. It seems like the audience is way more engaged and like pays more attention to what's going on in the creator's life, and it seems kind of like a closely knit community in a lot of different places in YouTube, like regardless of what the community is about. So I really like that aspect of it, and that's something that I found is really missing in Instagram for me. Instagram seems to kind of revolve around consumption, like instant consumption, for lack of a better word. Yeah, so I mean, people do comment and stuff, but a lot of the comments are pretty short, which is, I'm still grateful for all the comments that I get, of course, and I read all of them and I try to reply for as much as I can, to as many as I can, but it still feels a little bit anemic compared to, say, back in the day when we all used to be on DeviantArt, and I don't know if any of you guys can remember that, but it was a pretty good time. It was very different. I think the expectations were really different back then. Like, it was like a huge deal when a favorite artist would upload something, and it would happen like once or twice a week, which was super fun. But nowadays, everything seems to have really accelerated. So that makes it a little difficult to keep up with, I guess. But I've gone completely off topic, so this is supposed to be an introductory video. So I will go back to talking about who I am and what I do. I like to think of myself as, I mean, in terms of art anyways, as just someone who decided that there was only one career or job option for me, which involves drawing, and hopefully eventually drawing only things that I actually want to draw. So I mean, to explain that a little bit more, I've always had this attitude about my future. I mean, I didn't think about my future too much, but I knew that career-wise, I didn't really have to think about any other options, because for some reason, I was just completely stuck on art. And the great news is that, thankfully, we live in a time where there are so many options to make money off of art these days that I honestly feel very, very lucky to be alive and to have been born into this particular time. So, going back to why I decided to make a YouTube channel, the biggest reason I think for me is the sense of community that I get, even when I just consume content without really contributing much to it. As a freelance artist and someone who works from home, I don't really spend a lot of time with other artists. I do go to conventions sometimes, and I do have a ton of artist friends. In fact, most of my friends are artists, which is pretty crazy, I guess. But it's a little bit rare to find people in close proximity who do something similar. Like, the vast majority of people that are very close to me, my friends and family, most of them have 9-to-5 jobs, and they do work for somebody else. I know very few people who are self-employed, which is why sometimes it can feel really isolating. And one of the biggest comforts that YouTube offers to me is the virtual company of other artists who are in a similar position, and I love listening to their opinions and just their advice. So I just want to join the community. One of the biggest reasons why it took me so long to finally pull the trigger on this is because I found the prospect of editing videos really daunting. Like anybody else, I guess I don't particularly enjoy going out of my comfort zone, and even though I went to school for animation and I had to construct an animated short and put it all together and edit the video at the end, I don't remember particularly enjoying the process, and I was very unhappy with the result, which I guess kind of turned me off from video editing. Like, I've had to do a couple of little things here and there over the years, but generally I would consider myself very inexperienced, and I barely remember any of the stuff that I had to do for school, so it's kind of new. Looking back at it, I think one of the biggest reasons why I didn't have a particularly good experience with making the short film is because there was just too much pressure involved, and it was too complicated, and there were too many eyes on it, and everyone made it seem like my career was like hanging on it, and just the combination of all that didn't really leave a particularly good impression on me. I remember being very depressed right after I graduated for a long time. But anyway, so recently though, I've been working on making a new art book, which is the second art book that I'm making. And at first I was just gonna do it the same way that I did last time, which basically involved me just setting up pre-orders on my online store and giving people a little bit of notice, and then holding the pre-orders and using the money I raised to put in the order and producing the book myself. But this time I was convinced by very close people in my life that maybe I should try using Kickstarter, which is something I've thought about a lot before, but it seemed so daunting and it seemed to be so serious. Like, there was so much work involved, and it seemed really scary because it's so public, so it was really hard for me to kind of make that decision and commit to it, and I would much rather have taken the easier way out and just done pre-orders like last time, but I was convinced, and I just decided to kind of take a leap and do it. It took so much preparation, and I was able to pull it all together, but the one thing that was so dreaded for me is making the Kickstarter video. Like, after doing some research, it was evident that every single project that's successful, they all have videos, and I understood that it was really important for people to be able to see my face. But it was just one of those things where I kept procrastinating and I couldn't even do it, and I set myself a deadline for the Kickstarter, and I ended up just rolling with it without the video because I couldn't do it. But it got funded so fast, and I was so shocked and amazed by how quickly it all happened, and it was like a whirlwind. And after that, I looked into upgrading the book. And anyways, if you've seen my first video here on this channel, you probably have heard me talk about it, so I'll just cut this short. And so I forced myself to get over my insecurities and my fear of being on camera and all that, which is pretty extreme actually. Everybody who knows me knows that it's very rare that I even take photos of myself because it's just very uncomfortable for some reason. But I'm really, really glad that I was able to get over it, because once I started editing the video, it actually turned out to be so much more fun than I thought it would be, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the entire process. So that's why I'm kind of just jumping into it while I'm still on a roll, and I'm making my first actual YouTube video, which is this video, and I really hope that this will be the start of a little community. I will tell you guys a little bit about what I love and the kind of stuff that I'm gonna want to make content about. So obviously, I love drawing, so that's the primary focus of this channel, and specifically, I love to draw characters and comics. I think comics is one of my favorite things to draw, and I did finish kind of recently, I guess maybe not recently, but a little while ago I finished a full-length graphic novel, which was a little under 250 pages, which was a huge accomplishment. I never thought that I had the capacity to complete something of that magnitude, but it just came out a couple of months ago, and I have so many things about the process that I would love to share with you guys and tell you about how it went, because it was with a publisher. I didn't do it myself, and it was written by somebody else, so I would love to share my experiences when it comes to publishing and working with other people, working with somebody else's script, and just planning and completing a project of that size. So for the future, I really am hoping to do my own project that's kind of similar. I don't know if it'll be a graphic novel, but it's definitely going to be in comic format, and I have a bunch of stories that I have been kind of nursing for the past like 15 years and I really want to bring them to life. For the longest time I felt like I wasn't ready. Now I feel like I've caught up in skills sufficiently so that I won't regret the artwork anymore, but now I'm just terrified of the writing aspect of it. But anyways, so this channel is kind of something that I want to use to document my process and show you guys the steps of the way, and I think it'll also help me hold myself accountable for my lack of progress on that front. And maybe you guys will have suggestions and things that would help me. And other than comics and illustration, I really like journaling and stickers and stationery. Those things are something I've always really loved ever since I was a kid, so I'm glad that's something that's been constant in my life. And lately I've been experimenting with making new products, so that's also something I'd love to share with you guys. And I'd love to tell you how I plan out my projects and how starting a bullet journal has basically improved my life in ways that I can't even explain. Yeah. So I think that pretty much covers all my current plans for this YouTube channel, and I really hope I get to make all those things. And to be honest, like I've mentioned, since I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel such a long time ago, I actually hoarded so much footage over the years. Notably, I recorded a ton of screen time of when I was working on Grimoire Noir, which is the graphic novel that I mentioned earlier. So I would love to use that footage and tell you guys all about the process. And I will make future videos in which I ask you guys what specific parts of the process you're curious about. So this seems like a pretty good spot to wrap it up, and I'd just like to thank you for your attention if you actually sat through the entirety of this video. I know I rambled quite a bit, but I really hope that I can bring some valuable information to you guys, and hopefully it'll be entertaining too, perhaps. Not gonna make any promises on that. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, just let me know down below and I will answer them in my next video. Bye!